Welcome, relational leaders and listeners. This is Cultivate, your podcast destination where we celebrate thriving relational leaders and encourage each other along the influence journey. I am Wendy F. Adams, your host and strategic guide. In each episode, I will engage with leaders who are sharing authentic stories that support impactful influence. I believe work shouldn't be a four-letter word, but should inspire, challenge, and fulfill. Through a high challenge and high support model, we will explore the recipe for relational leadership that drives meaningful change. You will gain insights from leaders who face the same challenges you may encounter and discover strategies to navigate them with resilience and purpose. What do you get when you mix a 30-year military veteran, a doctorate in strategic leadership, and a no-nonsense take on servant leadership? You get Michael Hagan, HR director, lifelong learner, and a man who believes leadership isn't a title, it's a practice of humanity. In this episode, we talk real talk, no buzzwords, no fluff, just lessons forged from the field, the front lines, and a fierce commitment to asking better questions. If you're ready to lead with curiosity and courage, this one's for you. If you're seeking healthy leadership engagement in an open, empowering, and authentic environment, then you're in the right place. After all, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together. Well, welcome back to a fresh episode of Cultivate. You know, today I am pumped, I tell you, to welcome a curious influencer, an HR, as I say, professor of humanity, Michael Hagan, Human Resources Director of the County of Lycoming, Pennsylvania, in studio today. Michael, I am thrilled that you have joined us for the Cultivate experience.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. Thanks for the invite, and definitely looking forward to talking and sharing things back and forth with you.
Well, let me just tell you, audience, don't be fooled by the calm demeanor. We're gonna get into some gritty conversation today, just in the green room time that I've had with Michael. Like, you know, you mentioned some things that have just stuck with me. Leadership style, right? We ask questions and you're working through the answers. I love that you ask yourself and your team what I think is one of the most gritty things. What aren't we doing well? And how can we work best? How can we work towards that best? So I want you to kick things off. Give us a behind the scenes look at how these questions have shaped your leadership. Why?
Yeah, you know, it's starting off. You know, I can't effectively lead my office or organization if I can figure myself out as well. And to do that, I came up with a personal vision statement. It was a course I took a while ago, and the gentleman that gave the course said, you know, 2% of, I think it was 2% of the population actually have a personal vision statement that they look at and review, and that's how they go forward in their day. So as I look through and try to figure it out, I'm like, well, I need to strive, live a balanced life, you know, curiosity, the kindness, resilience, and I need to inspire others to contribute positively in the world. And then, you know, my journey is guided by, you know, faith, integrity, creativity, leading me, you know, towards a future of fulfillment and better impact. So if I can plan my day or plan my week around that, that's kind of how I look at others in my organization or even just in my office, to be like, if I can't be true to myself, I'm not going to be true to you, especially as a leader. Nobody does well with the artificial leader that just says, hey, I earned the title today, therefore I am. You need to show it. You need to walk the walk, and people will see the true demeanor that you're giving them when you're true to yourself.
You know, you say these things, Michael, and make it sound with such ease, right? Just a simple fact here. But what I love, what resonated so much And that's a different show when we can deeply dig into artificial intelligence, right? AI. It's a tool and has a place. What I
Yeah.
heard you say is the place for that is not leadership. Authenticity is what that A needs to be, right? Like that's the space that makes the differentiation for any leader. And you said it starts with self-awareness, knowing who you are, right? Who's showing up in the room, who's showing up in the space, and having a vision that speaks through before you put any other title on. I think that that's profound and really a great starting space for us to walk out the rest of our conversation. You know, and as we dig in and you talk about your different experiences, I'm intrigued, right? You're now in public service in local government, but you've had leadership in your military career. From your lens, what does it really mean to lead well? We're talking about that. And what did leadership look like for you at 18? And how has life really reshaped that view?
Yeah. And I'll rewind. 'Cause at 18, that was my initial start in the military. So the leader I knew at that point was yell and scream, do push-ups for not doing correct, and that was the leader. As time generally goes on, and either through school or just life experiences, you tend to pick out the leaders that you truly want to be like. Like, wow, this person's right beside me as I'm digging this hole. That's great.
Mm,
Like, not on top of the hole, but in with me.
in with
Um,
yep.
and then you start to take those pieces and put them into yourself. Like, well, I know I want to be that, and I really like that, and I want to be that. And just going through its trial and error. Like, oh well, that didn't work, or I don't do that well. If I really rewind and try and pick out like some different areas that struck a chord. I was teaching a leadership development course, and I had an individual want to go home,
Mm,
and I mean we were only like 3 days into it, and I'm like, why do you want to go home? It's not like this isn't that difficult, really. And he goes, well, I'm not a leader, and I just don't need to be here. And I said, well, why do you feel you're not a leader? And he goes, I don't yell at people. And I'm like, well, as I rewind to myself, that's kind of what I had initially thought. And I'm like, well, we're not here to learn how to yell at people. We're here to lead people. And I mean, that struck a chord with me for, now I know I'm going to have to lead him differently.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that struck kind of the chord along the lines of, there's not one way to lead. There's not one way to do something. What I thought was the way 10, 12, 15 years ago is not the way now. I mean, even today, things are a lot different than they were, 10, 15 years ago as well. People are different. Um,
Well,
so,
and you see that, I'm sure, if you looked in if you went back to that 18-year-old, as far as the setting that you were in the military, even that looks different, right? There's been evolution in what we've learned. What you pointed out, we're picking up pieces and we're learning along the way what we do want, what we don't want, right? Yes, you bring your authentic and individual self to the leadership table, and then there is those spaces that you go, man, this isn't what the responses you get back. You go, this is not what I wanted. This is not how I wanted this to go. Let me start here and
yep,
be curious as to why, as you did with that young man, like, why don't you think you should be here? Well, I'm not a leader. Well, let's educate and define leadership. Well, it's influence. Trust me, you're influencing someone. It's now
absolutely.
how. That's what we're here to do.
Yep, yep. And, that was a good moment. And I use that one so often because I think a
Yeah,
lot of people are in I mean, you're a leader if you think you are or not. And
that's
that's
right.
the thing. It's like, from the young kid selling, lemonade at the stand down the road, or you're leading somehow. And we had an interview the other day. Someone came in and I looked at their resume, and there was The only thing on there was their degree. And I'm like, you mean to tell me you didn't work through school or anything? She goes, no, I was the front desk person of a hotel for 2 years. And I'm like, well, you were leading when nobody was there and someone had an issue. That was you.
That's
Like,
right.
and
That's
that's an
right.
experience you need to put on there. And she's like, oh, I never thought of it like that. And I'm like, we're all leaders at some point, and we're all mentors shaping each other into that leadership role. So,
That's
um,
right. She was the director of First Impressions.
yeah. And I'm like, well, here you go. And so it was kind of like the aha moment. And she's like, wow, huh, you're right. And I'm like, yeah, if nobody's there and you're the only one there. You're leading that whole hotel. So, um, it's really kind of eye opening for a lot of people sometimes. Be like, well, I didn't think I was this, but you really are.
Well, and that's it, because you're getting to the core, right? When you start to have those conversations and open up that dialogue, we're getting to the core of who that person is, right? What's their heartbeat? And
Yep.
that's when they can recognize, oh, that's the influence, that's leadership. Like you said, it's being down in the trenches, not just standing above. And experience says, hey, I've been here. So I'm going to be able to point you in a direction so we don't go backwards. We don't fall off the cliff, but I'm down here with you. You know, with that being said, because we have a lot of buzzwords that we throw around in leadership, and you talk about training
Yep.
and being a part of that space. I know from our time, there's some frustration there, and I ask the question sometimes: what are our favorite buzzwords that we think we would love to not hear ever again? One for you that I know that has been a piece of, hey, we got to get this right, is servant leadership. So how is that buzzword, like, when you strip away the hype of just throwing that out, what does it mean to authentically be others focused in our leadership, and how do we practice that?
Yeah. And I heard that one the other day again. It's like, what's your leadership style? And it's like, I'm a servant leader. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, I know you and you're not. And I mean, especially with that one. And I use a story like, I went to work at an organization and they said that right away. We're servant leaders. We lead as servant leaders. Well, guess what? Then I get laid off, and you didn't do anything of servant leadership. You didn't contact me to see, like, hey, buddy, are you okay?
Mm,
You're through some tough times. So, really, if you look at like servant leadership, is it just a title, or is it actually just a way? It's a way of life.
yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, that one. That one really gets
Well,
me because it's
because there's got to be some practical steps to come alongside the words of it's breaking that down. We know that leadership is influence, and
yeah,
that can go one way or the other. And then when we talk about servant leadership, well, that's others focused. That's showing preference to, right? And so how? Because that sounds sometimes counterintuitive, especially if you have the mindset of a leader being over and the one who's pushing versus guiding, right?
yeah,
I was just that's something that a great friend and colleague just spoke into me is, remember, in your influence, Wendy, it's not about pushing or pulling people, it's about guiding, coming alongside, as you said. So that, what is like that practice, what are those things that we need to do differently so that we can show up as a servant leader?
yeah. It's getting at the same level as who you're leading and bringing them up. Um,
Yeah.
it's listening. I mean, it's putting everything aside, like,
Mm,
wondering of a promotion for yourself or wondering about, the next big project or everything. It's wondering how the people that you're leading and what they're doing and how to make them better and what needs to be done in their aspect to not only develop them into leadership, but as a better person. It just takes on it's a bigger meaning than just like, well, I'm just looking out for my people. It's like, no, you're not. That's one small aspect of it, but you're
hmm
also you're essentially leading in a method that if you date it back, it's not the book that a guy read of, oh, now I'm going to develop in 19 was it 70 to this term of servant leadership, you're dealing with someone way back when in the Bible that was the actual servant leader. And the two don't model themselves together at all. And, you know,
Well, I
not
think
to, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I don't want to miss the moment that that you brought to the table. Like again, some practical steps of listening, right? Being curious and asking questions, and then sticking around for the answer. Really getting to know your people because no two are the same, and so let's not treat them like widgets. Let's
Yeah,
the humans that are standing before us, right? These people, so that even how we communicate, methods of communication, thus leadership is heavy, deep, messy business because we're dealing with people
yeah,
and lives are full. So I think that that's something we don't want to overlook is not that the buzzword or the term is wrong. It's making sure that once we define it, we actually walk it out, and not just what feels good, but think of the other person on the other side of the desk, in the department with a real family, and responsibilities outside of the organization, seeing them as a 360-degree person, right? That's high stakes because we're talking about humans. And you've been in some high stakes moments across your tenure. That's across continents, missions, now dealing and working with communities. And you might have touched on this, but I'd love to get a little more depth of a moment where you had to actually recalibrate your leadership midstream. What did that look like? And what did you actually learn in that space?
yeah. You know, it's easy to try to change to something else.
Mm,
It's easy to, you know, think of, you know, what brought you where you are, your ethics and your values to where, you know, you became a leader. I remember, you know, my dad passed away back in 2008, and I remember reading like all the comments on the, you know, the obituary page and everything, and my dad was a military guy as well, and
mm,
one of the comments said, "Best damn leader, period." And I'm like, wow, that's it. Like just boom. It was just clear and simple. But it was, you know, sticking to your ethics and your values that made you the person that you are. And yeah, it's easy to be like, you know, I could take the easy way out and not do some. I could take the easy wrong instead of the hard right.
mm,
But I'm gonna remain true and, you know, self brand of who I am and maintain that. So I mean, there's easy. I mean, you look at leadership theories, and there's quite a few of them out there, and it's easy to be like, well, I like this, but I don't like this. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to
this,
take this, and I'm not going to take this hard stuff, and then I'm going to take this, and then I'm not going to do this. But and it's easy to try and get down that path to be like, you know what, this is just too much. But that's where I think the true leadership steps in is being true to yourself, you know, relying with integrity, your ethics, your values to, you know, what got me to where I am or what got the individual to where they are and remaining true to that. And then that's ultimately what keeps your leadership on that even keel. Um, instead of just taking the the easy wrong and and you know becoming someone that you're not, or you learn to regret at a later time as well.
absolutely. Well, that authenticity, people that you are influencing want to know that they can count on who's showing up, right? And we know life is life and things change, but we go back to what you said, who you are at your core, that needs to be who shows up. And obviously, and we'll get into some of that conversation, making sure you're the healthiest that you can be is what's going to make that be true each and every time that the best you is showing up in the space. I said on the upfront when I was introducing you, the professor of humanity, right? Because you made this profound comment when we
Yeah,
first got together of a practice of humanity. That's the actual definition of leadership. And I just think, wow, what a profound statement. Share a time or what brought you to you're a flawed human being like I am. You want to be present, you want to be curious. How is that more powerful than being perfect? Because I think
Yeah,
that's one of those spaces that we lay leadership in as well.
yeah, absolutely. And it goes exactly with the practice of leadership's practice of humanity. Every person is different, and you need to lead every person as a human.
Mm,
Um, I mean, and that's not changing leadership styles or anything like that. It's developing, sitting down and listening to someone speak, hearing what they say, and then coming up with you know, your leadership take on that, or example. I remember a young individual. We same leadership course. His wife just went into labor, and he's like, "I gotta get home." And the easy thing would be like, "No, I'm sorry. You got 2 days left. You have to stay." This is the birth of your first son. The hard part was trying to figure a way to get him home. Calling people at odd hours of the night, making them, "Why are you calling me?" upset. But I'm this individual's leader, and I need to sit down with him and think, he's a human. I need to treat him like that. Is this really the right thing to do? Keeping him here with the birth of his first child? No. So let's look at it that way. And I mean, I that's kind of, and I have it on my signature block on my email. And so many
hmm
times it's like when something comes up, I'm like, hey, remember, it's the practice of humanity. We're trying to figure people out. We don't know people, but we're going to figure them out. We're going to listen to them. We're going to hear their story. And guess what? I might lead them a little bit differently. I lead my son different than I do my daughter. Same household, same values, but they're two different people. Um, and that's kind of the way, I've gone about at least like the last, I would say, 10 years of leadership. Like, hey, everybody's different. We can't just use one developed method to lead them into somewhere, into, their future or anything like that. We need to sit down and actually talk to them and listen, and care.
Yeah.
And I think
you
that's just the hard part. Like, you gotta
it,
show, you gotta care.
it is. You're
Otherwise, go do
absolutely
something
correct.
else.
Well, and
you know?
that's exactly where I'm like, we're not forced to do this. So if we're not willing to step into that space and really look at individuals in the space of being that individual person, being curious, asking the questions, this is an area that I have to be very intentional in, because I really have come up in the space of, you show me who you are. You don't tell me who you are. And I was challenged. I was challenged by teammates, and rightfully so. And it was hard. It was hard to hear that, but that I had to, again, ask the questions, because we don't know what's going on in that space in life, and then stick around for the answer. And we said this up front, when we were having the pause. That's a place where I have to not always have an answer back, again, waiting around to listen, and then before I respond, sit in the pause, chew over that. I'll be back to you on that. And again, not having to feel like I'm the leader who's got to be perfect or have all of those answers. I love working with emerging leaders. You know who are the best emerging leaders to practice this on? My niece and nephew that are 8 and younger. I'm telling you, I just had a conversation earlier this week with my almost 5-year-old nephew, and he blew me away. But I had to ask, and he only has so much vocabulary. Wait around to, oh, because if I just looked at his actions,
Yep.
we're not going to have a good time. This I don't know what's going on here, but we got to course correct. And not that a course correction may not be necessary, but I had a better understanding when I patiently sat in, and I really have a different view. So I got schooled by a 4.5 year old this this week.
And
And
I learned so much from just listening to like our kids too. Like, I'm like, huh, never thought about it that way. Like, but
Yeah.
it's being open, and you know, one of the greatest questions I think I have on so when I do interviews, I have the structured questions and stuff like that for, you know, different tasks, and you know, how do you do conflict, and you know, all that, and
Mm-hmm.
I save this one for the end, and I go, okay, I'm gonna give you your hardest question, and they're like, you know, the fear kind of comes over them, and I go, what's the biggest compliment someone's ever given you? And they just like freeze, and they're like, what? And I'm like, compliment. What's the best compliment you've ever received from someone? And they sit there for a minute because you know, you catch them off guard. It's not a typical like question, but you can see what their impacts are in life. Oh, someone told me I was a very hard worker. I'm like, okay, good. You're a hard worker. Someone told me I was a wonderful dad. Okay, well, you're dedicated to your family. But you can kind of see where they come from,
Mm-hmm.
or you know, what matters to them. Um, excuse me, the way they answer that. So it's just a quick question off the cuff, but the answer that they give has such a big impact um, for that thought.
Well, it does, and I'm gonna borrow that one because not only we don't get it's like walking in or walking up to someone who's serving, or if you are in a place where there's no one who still has any toll booths, you don't see humans there anymore. But if you say hello,
Right.
good morning, ask how are you, like what you get this look like. Because they've now been seen and heard right in that space. When you ask that question, not only do you like you want to know something real about me, but then they also have to go back in their archives and relive that good space.
Yep.
I love that question, and it makes me think, how would I answer? So that really gets to that place of how we have responsibility to each other in raising that bar and that level of humanity as you speak out. I have to imagine with a lot of the things that you've shared, like I said, we're getting into some gritty spaces. You're pushing out on some things that we just kind of sit in. And what's something that you are wrestling with in your leadership right now, right? This is some grit. Whether it's in your HR role, county governance, you're doing doctrinal work. Where's that wrestle and kind of that push and pull for you happening?
Yeah, you know, it's you know, choosing the battle. Like, and I can use an example. I don't follow politics a lot. It's just it makes me
Mm.
it does.
It's
But
exhausting.
you know, yeah. But you know, it's the fundamentals that we have are always there. So you know, I put out you know, our mandatory annual training of stuff like, you know, you got your sexual harassment training and all this other. And I said, you know what? I said I want to do a training on culture. And of course, I put it out, and then instantly I get all the naysayers back, like, "Oh, the federal government said we're not doing this anymore," and I'm like, "No, they didn't. That's way larger than our scale."
Hmm.
And you know, I even had my boss ask, like, "Do we really need to do this?" And I'm like, "Yes, we do. Like, we do need to do this." And I shared this you know, story, you know, over email to everyone. I get it. Some of you are thinking that you don't need this, or it shouldn't be taught. I go, that's your choice, but that's your choice outside of the door. When you come into here, I'm going to give you a choice, and here's the deal. And I just told them, in my 30 years of being in the military, I've seen some great places. I've done some great things. Heck, I had a ride in an F-16 one time. I mean, it was, you know, fantastic. But I said, you know, the one thing that I can look back at as my all-time favorite time, I guess, through that whole experience is the people I worked with, the different
Mm.
people that I worked with. And we don't have to be the same, and that's fine. But I do have to know something, or I have to respect them as well in the workplace. Um, I struggled with that. I mean, back to it, the easy thing would have been delete it. I'm not going to do it, and say, okay,
Mm-hmm.
boss, yeah, we're just not going to do it. But the hard thing, the hard right was, we're doing this because you're different than me. The person in my office is different than me. And I don't have all the answers. I would like to,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, if I learned one thing from it, if someone learned something from it, great.
That's right.
It's 1 hour, 1 hour to learn about somebody else, or learn something. So that was a struggle. Because the easy button would have been, hey, you're right, boss, let's just not do it. Because when I say it, then, all of a sudden it goes up the chain and someone's calling the boss, and then it comes down, and do we need to do this? I'm like, yeah, we absolutely need to do this. It's the right thing to do, and it leads back to practice of humanity. Um,
Yeah.
and that one, I even came home a couple times, and I'm like just frazzled. Like, the day was just, and but it's sticking to the right course again. It's
Yeah.
sticking to the what you feel and believe, and doing the right thing, um, at the end of the day, I mean, that was last month. Um, all in all, I count it as a success. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Well, you're looking at greater good, right? Like that allowed you to, if that allowed you to learn something about one or two more of your teammates, that helps for being able to step into that human space with them, then it is. You're right. And it keeps you connected to your center, your core, your why. I can't believe how quickly the time has come for us to wrap up, but I would be remiss. I've had this question in the back of my mind, and I got to ask, what's the biggest misconception that you believe leaders live with and then pass on to others?
you have to be perfect.
Ah,
You don't. We make mistakes, we learn from them. If you go into anything with an ego, or you're perfect, or you're above somebody else, you're going to fail. You're not going to have the buy-in of the people you're leading. So it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to say, hey, I made a mistake.
oh
Um,
gosh.
and when people hear that, they're like, wow, he's kind of like me. Or,
Yes.
it's okay. And then, that also encourages, like, the people I lead to make a mistake. And it's like, you know what, we'll figure it out if you do, because we just learned from it.
Yeah.
There's no pedestal. There's no, like, magic shield that we wear or anything like that. We're vulnerable. We, take the hits. We try to shield our people from them. At the end of the day, we're not perfect, and we just, try to change things to make it better for the next person, or try to make things better for the organization.
That's
Um,
right. That's
I
right. I
just,
love it.
yeah,
I love it.
that's
I mean, simple but not easy.
yeah,
But if more of us walk out in that space, then the influence that we have on others is to say, "Hey, I can do that too." Oh my gosh, Michael, it has been such a great
yeah.
conversation. You have left us with so much to think on. Again, I always want to encourage the audience, don't leave it here. Take it with you, chew on it. Let's do have a little fun before we sign off, right? Okay, so I got to know favorite ice cream flavor.
Butter brickle.
What? That's the first time I've heard that one.
This is a North Dakota. I'm from North Dakota. This is just one that I remember. It's vanilla with, like, toffee bits in it. So
Oh my
every now and then you
gosh.
get a toffee bit, and then just a nice creamy vanilla with a toffee bit. We're actually doing that for a, employee engagement activity here in August, where we bring, like, an ice cream truck in for everyone can go get an ice cream cone, and just celebrate the summer. And
And butter brickle will be there?
said, "Can you get butter brickle?" And the guy looked. He goes, "By golly, we can." He goes, "You got to get rid of one of these." I'm like, "Birthday cake is gone."
Nobody needs all that confetti. It's all good. Oh my
Birthday cake
gosh.
is gone. Get butter brickle. So now,
I,
yeah,
I, might,
everyone can go
I, might
look
have
at
to
that
put
one.
that on, I might have to put that on my calendar, man. That I love a good piece of toffee.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. All right. So lastly, what refills your cup? Outside of the office, what are you doing that refills you?
You know, I know I say, it used to be running. I used to run a lot. With I have two kids now. Man, my body
You
hurts a
you
little
run in a
more.
different way now.
Yeah, my body hurts a little bit more, so I don't do that as much. But you know what? It sure is nice driving home from work, coming in, and I walk through the door, and my little daughter comes up, or my son comes up, and I'm like, "Dad." And then the first thing, did you bring us anything home? And the gals at work sometimes have a candy dish that I bring something, but I'm like, no, today it's just me. But just that affection, or the welcome home kiss from my wife, just that kind of just refuels the day after whatever is going on. So
Yeah.
just kind of simple. Maybe when they get older, I'll get back to running or something else. But right now, that's as much as they take away, they also refuel it as well with the love and affection. So
Absolutely. And what a great way, what a great reminder to leave us with. You shared so many insightful takeaways today, and I love how you live your why out loud. So I just say thank you for that and for saying yes to being a part of the Cultivate experience. Thanks so much.
absolutely, thank you. Yeah, yeah, thank you for reaching out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Cultivate collaborators, you know that's where we are. We're a wrap today, but never a wrap on making sure that we continue to bring our special flavor to the mix of relational leadership. So until next time, let's keep making an impact, stirring things up, and being better together. Thanks, everyone. Before we sign off today, I want to send out huge appreciation to our listeners for tuning in. I hope you felt seen, heard, and inspired to level up your own leadership journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And if you're ready to level up your leadership, asking for a friend, or interested in being a guest on the show, connect with me at cultivateforgood.com. That's cultivateforgood.com. Remember, as leaders, we're either driving progress or we're driving the problem. So let's grow together.